Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Miel, and today I'm looking at a very timely topic or timely place, namely Gaza. It's mentioned quite a few times in the Old Testament and very often in the context of receiving destruction or prophecy of destruction and so forth. So prophets definitely had it in for the place, and I'm not going to say that whatever's happening now is a direct fulfillment of those ancient prophecies, but there is most certainly a pattern. Something is happening there. It's that this has happened in the past. It seems to be happening in the present, and that seems where the future is going as well. So it's very sad when these kind of things happen. I do personally, I feel for both sides, especially the Christians that are living in Gaza and the Christians that are living in Israel as well. Uh, those who are fanatical murderers and so forth, I feel really that the justice of the Lord will come on those. But most certainly, there are a lot of innocent people are finding themselves in the middle of serious trouble. So Gaza, here it is. And there's something very interesting about the ayin here, and we're going to get into that. Very, very interesting construction in terms of what's happening here in the Hebrew. It's Gaza, okay. Gaza. Now this is an ayin, Zayin, hey, and if you just read it as such, based on what we know of how to pronounce the Hebrew consonants, we would be calling it Aza, and Aza is power. Az just by itself is power. This is the feminine form of that particular word. So the powerful one, the city that has power. So Aza, place of power. Now, we call it Gaza, and you want to start wondering why we would do that. It's because of what we see in the Septuagint. And the Septuagint takes this. The Septuagint is, by the way, is the Greek translation produced about 200 years before Christ. That was quite definitive as to how the Greek people would look at the scriptures. So in the Septuagint, Gaza here is translated, or Aza is translated, put in as Gaza with a G. And so there is a special use then. We've seen it here and there throughout the scriptures. I'm going to be doing a few more studies on some of the other cities that have this, places and names, people's names as well, that have an ayin that at some point in time can be translated or pronounced as a G rather than just simply the A here. It has a pronunciation of the G. And this particular ayin is called a gayin, okay? A gayin. So you just start with a G in front of the ayin, so that's a gayin. And incidentally, one of the languages which helps us with this is Arabic, because Arabic does this. Arabic calls the ayin the gayin. So, and we see it also in Gomorrah. That also has an ayin that works as a gayin. And we're going to get into the list here. We're looking at Genesis 10, verse 19, which is the list of the nations. And this as far back as you can go, basically on the whole list of where people are, where the countries are, places, cities, and names, and so forth. Back here to this, it's a key. Genesis 10 is a key spot for sorting out where the original peoples have lived in the Middle East. So now the territory of the Canaanites extended from Sidon, that's up on the coast of Mediterranean coast, in the direction of Gerar. Gerar is down south. Gerar is inland from Gaza. This is where Abimelech lived. Ruins are still there. They even used to be able to visit them. They're just sitting off beside the road. In the direction of Sodom, okay, and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lasha. So these are, when we see these places, we're looking at the perimeter of basically what would form ancient Israel. So these are sort of border towns, border cities along the edge of where the Israelites were living, or the area they would take over eventually during the time of David and Solomon and so forth. So this sort of defines the border areas. And Hebrew, Vehi, Gabul, this is the territory, the border. Same word actually, Gibul and territory means territory and border. Hakananim, of the Canaanites. Mi, Shidon, from Sidon, so they're starting way up in the north corner, up on the shore, up into what's today very much Lebanon. Okay, Shidon. This also, I think, a previous study has talked about. These are people who fish. Shad is to be a hunter or fisher. So Shidon. Bo Achal, Gerah, Gaza, Bocha, Shdoma, ועד גומורה, ואדמה, ושבים עד Lasha. So this is the border of the Canaanites from Sidon towards, extending from, direction of, towards Bo Akal, Gerar. What complicates the pronunciation of some of these are like this one, Gerar, and Shtoma, and Gomorrah, and this is towards. These have directional haze on the end, Adama. So Adama might be just simply a feminine form of this word, but these are definitely directional haze here. So you got Gerar, towards Shtoma, and towards Gomorrah. Okay. In English, you call this Sodom. Okay. In Spanish, it's Sodoma, which they include the directional hay in their translation. But Gomorrah, so Gomorrah would just be the root of it, but we say Gomorrah because of this hay that's at the end here, and that stays on this one as well. So Gomorrah. This is very much as a Gaian. So we see this ayin right here. Instead of just pronouncing the vowel that's on it, this hatepata, we pronounce it as a G, as a Gaian. Ve'adama, ve'jibulim, and Ad Lasha. So as I said, these are all kind of the edges of the territory that the Israelites occupied eventually. Amos 1 verse 6, thus Jehovah says, for 3 crimes of Gaza and for 4, I will not turn it back, for they're carrying away captive the whole captive community to deliver them over to Edom. So this is sort of a formula that the prophets would use, for 3 and then for 4, 3 and for 4. So in other words, this makes it complete. List out 3, then I add another 4th because that really seals the deal, seals the package. So, and that's very much an idiomatic expression. We see it time and time again of prophets using this kind of expression. Komar Yehovah al Shelosha Pishe Gaza ve'al Arba'a lo Eshivenu al ha-galotam galut shelema le-ha-zikri le-edom. And thus, therefore, thus says Amar, very much a root word of, it's the base root for to say something, Jehovah. Al Sholoshiv, on 3 is sins, crimes, sins, or things that you're doing wrong. Peshe, Aza, of Gaza. Okay. Now, if we didn't know anything about the Gau, we'd be pronouncing this thing as Aza, but it's the Gaian lets us understand, and the Septuagint, the Greek version, understood as such. This is a G. Okay, Gaza. Okay, and I always keep in the back of my head that the ayin may have started out as a G, but it's also possible to have somewhat of a dialect version here of this pronunciation. But most certainly seems to happen more often with foreign cities and foreign people as well. Once you're inside the nation, the ayin works as an ayin, but when you're on the edge of the nation, it works as a gayin. Okay, so Gaza. And upon the 4th time as well, Lo Eshabim. I'm not going to turn around on this one. In other words, the Lord's saying right here, this is the Lord speaking. The Lord's saying, I'm going to be firm about this. This is something that's very serious. Things again are really pretty rough, and I'm not going to turn back on this. This is a decision of the Lord. This is something very important. And what we're looking here is something the Lord is determining about what's happening in that place. And I think this is the perspective we always have to hold. Whatever is happening, the Lord has His perspective on it, and His will must be done. So we're seeing a lot of evil things, awful things. We saw them in the past, seeing them in the present, and unfortunately, probably we'll see some of that in the future as well. Very unfortunate, but that's what the history has been in that place. Al-Gulatam, on their captivity. Gulat Shalama, this is a captivity that was complete. Everybody, picked everybody up, boom, everybody out of there, sold them off to Edom. This was reason enough or crime enough so that the Lord is not going to turn back on that. And so even in this day and age, we hear of captives, we hear of hostages and so forth. Nothing new. This is what happened way back 2,700 years ago, and the Lord has it in for people, had it in for them doing it then, and will have it in for them doing it now. Therefore, I will send fire against the walls of Gaza, and it will consume its citadels. Shilati, the suffix form of the first person noun here, Shilati. Esh, fire, boom. Behomat, on the walls, against the walls of Gaza. Azza, Bechala, Armenonetecha. Its citadels, its palaces, its tall places. Ram. You'll notice the Resh Mem is in here. That's something that's high up. So it's the fortified places. Those things are all going to get burned. In ancient times, of course, walls were often made of stone or adobe, or clay brick. But many clay buildings built of clay brick, their walls as well. But the roofs were made of thatch and grass and so forth. Those things were very flammable, so they were burned up. We also see it with Gomorrah. Ancient cities could be burned down with the flammable materials that were in them. So that's apparently what had happened or was going to happen with Gaza. There, when you have things that will burn, don't be surprised that people set them on fire. The Lord sets it on fire. Brings us to a principle we have to live with. Do not avenge yourselves, dear friends. Give place to God's wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. And we certainly do feel for what is happening in places of war, namely Ukraine and Gaza now. But we must also know that when it comes to judgment, it's the Lord who brings judgment, and it's not our place to wreak vengeance on people for what has happened. We must seek justice and seek to do the right thing and care for the ones who are innocent, and see if there's some way of punishing the ones that are guilty. So yes, the Lord decides, but we must live in a just world and must seek to do His will. And when it comes to vengeance, the vengeance or revenge belongs to the Lord. It doesn't belong to us. It's something that He will do. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. We have to live with that confidence, knowing that that's something the Lord will do. May you live your life in justice, care for one another, love your neighbor, even if your neighbor is of some other faith. Most certainly love them, and the Lord loves them, and we must also share the love of Christ with all of our neighbors and nations that we come in contact with. May God bless and God strengthen you in this day.